The doors of courtroom 6A groaned open, their echo rolling through the building like thunder. Reporters lunged forward, pens ready, microphones raised, desperate to capture history as it unfolded. Fans of Sister Wives, once believers, now skeptics, sat shoulder to shoulder with legal analysts and strangers who had waited since dawn. This wasn't just another trial. This was the collapse of a dynasty. The fall of a man who once called himself a patriarch. Kody Brown. Inside, the air was suffocating. No cameras were allowed, but it didn't matter. Every eye became a lens, every whisper a broadcast. The gavel struck once. The judge entered. Order in the court. Kody sat stiff at the defense table, jaw locked, eyes darting from face to face. Beside him, Robin clutched his arm like a woman drowning, her knuckles white, her breath shallow. Across the room sat Christine, Janelle, and Mary. No longer wives, no longer bound to him, but witnesses, survivors, women who carried the weight of years of betrayal. The prosecutor rose, his voice slicing the silence. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a case about religion. This is not about tradition. This is about deception, betrayal, and the deliberate destruction of trust. Kody Brown didn't just abandon his family, he exploited them. The gallery gasped. Kody's attorney reached for his arm, signaling restraint. Kody's face reddened, but he stayed silent. The prosecutor paced deliberately, letting his words pierce the air. For over a decade, America watched Sister Wives. They saw a story of unity, resilience, and love. But behind closed doors, documents were forged, assets were hidden, funds were siphoned, and those who dared to question were silenced. Robin shifted uneasily, her lips trembling. Christine's jaw tightened. Janelle's eyes narrowed, locked on Kody like steel. Your Honor, the prosecutor declared, the state calls Christine Brown to the stand. A collective hush blanketed the room. Christine stood, her steps deliberate. The click of her heels echoed like a drumbeat of justice. She raised her hand, swore the oath, and sat, her posture steady, her eyes unflinching. The prosecutor leaned closer, soft but firm. Christine, in your own words, can you tell this court what Kody Brown did to you and your family? Christine drew a breath, her voice carrying both sorrow and fire. He didn't just break promises, he broke us. For years we believed him. We followed him. We sacrificed for him. And while we struggled, while our children wondered why there was never enough, he was hiding money. He was funneling resources. He was choosing favorites. And the truth is, he left us long before we ever left him. The room erupted, gasps, murmurs. A reporter dropped his pen. Robin buried her face in trembling hands, shoulders shaking. Kody shook his head violently, whispering to himself, "She's lying. She's lying." The judge's gavel thundered, "Order! Order in this court!" But order was an illusion. The storm had already broken. Christine's voice wavered, but she pressed on, her words cutting deeper. I was told to stay quiet. I was told it was for the family. But I realized it was never about family. It was always about him. About control. About greed. About power. Every word was a dagger. Every sentence stripped away the myth of Kody Brown, the husband, the father, the patriarch. In his place stood a man cornered by his own lies. The prosecutor nodded, pacing slowly. Christine, when you say hidden money, do you have proof? Her hand trembled as she reached for a folder. She opened it, revealing bank statements, property deeds, signatures that did not match. The jury leaned forward, eyes wide. Christine's voice sharpened. These are the accounts. These are the signatures. This is the betrayal. Kody slammed his hand on the table. Lies, all of it lies, he roared. The courtroom erupted. The judge's gavel struck again and again. Order, order! But it was too late. The image was burned into everyone's mind. Kody, red-faced, desperate, unraveling. Christine, calm, steady, unshaken. And as the judge restored silence, one thing became clear. This wasn't just a trial. This was an execution of truth. And it was only the beginning. And it was only the beginning. The lights dimmed slightly as evidence flickered onto the overhead monitor. A giant screen glowed, casting shadows across the wood-paneled walls of courtroom 6A. Bank statements, color-coded, time-stamped, organized by year. A murmur rippled through the gallery like a wave breaking against stone. But Janelle Brown, calm, unshaken, did not flinch, did not blink. She leaned forward, steady as a woman who had carried truth in silence for far too long. 7.5 years, she said firmly, her voice slicing through the charged silence. approximately $148,000, redirected, hidden, concealed behind so-called household expenses, masked as ministry purchases. But the truth? It was supporting Nora. I know it. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Christine's eyes widened, hand flying to her lips. Mary's face stayed still, almost resigned, as though she had already suspected the truth. Janelle pressed on. The accounts were in my name. But I never authorized those withdrawals. The prosecutor leaned closer. You're claiming Mr. Brown used your accounts without your permission? I'm not claiming, Janelle shot back. I'm telling you, I trusted him with access, and he betrayed that trust. The monitor behind her flashed with red transaction logs, the damning trail of money stretching back years. The courtroom leaned forward. Every soul could feel it. Money leaves trails. And Janelle had just led the court straight to the path. The prosecutor's tone sharpened. Why didn't you report this sooner? Janelle's face hardened, but her voice carried raw honesty. Because we weren't legally married. Because in spiritual marriages, I had no rights. No bargaining power. I stayed quiet because I thought silence was sacrifice. I thought I was protecting the family. I thought I was guarding the children. But now, her voice cracked, then steadied like steel. I see I wasn't protecting them. I was protecting him. The gallery gasped. Robin dropped her head into her hands. Kody clenched his fists, jaw trembling with fury. Janelle's voice did not break. One of those withdrawals happened the very day I begged him for money, for Savannah's dental surgery. He told me we were broke. He told me funds were frozen. He lied while secretly funneling cash into someone else's life. The silence that followed was deafening. Christine's hand pressed to her mouth. Robin began to softly cry, shoulders shaking. But Janelle, unyielding, refused to crumble. This is not about heartbreak, she declared, her voice ringing like a verdict. This is about fraud. This is about a man who built a system so complex, so twisted, that even we were afraid to call it abuse. But abuse in scripture, she thundered, is still abuse. The defense leapt to their feet. You are not legally married to Mr. Brown. Why now? Janelle didn't blink. Because spiritual marriage still ties you. Emotionally, financially, spiritually. And because I was made a participant in concealing a woman I never even saw. A woman I didn't know existed. Until now. Her eyes locked on Nora Blake. I didn't even know her name until last week. But the moment she walked into this courtroom, everything fell into place. The prosecutor's voice softened. And what do you seek through this case, Miss Brown? Janelle's answer was swift, brutal, final. Not money, not revenge. I want a record. I want the lie carved into history. Irrefutable, permanent. The judge inclined his head gravely. Nothing further? No, Janelle replied sharply. She turned to the gallery, her voice rising with decades of bottled fury. I've waited years for this. For him to be held accountable for something that can't be twisted in an interview or excused as an editor's trick. And now, here we are. The courtroom sat frozen, not clapping, not gasping, but stunned into silence. The judge called a recess. Reporters dashed out like fire had been set beneath them. Headlines already forming. 148K missing. Sister wife drops bombshell. Robin collapsing. Kody cornered. Inside, Kody sat motionless. Not speaking to Robin, not to Mary, not even to his attorney. Just seething. A volcano trembling before eruption. And then, it happened. Mary Brown stood. Every head turned. Every breath caught. I want to testify, she said softly, but the force of it cracked through the air like lightning. The judge raised his brows. Now? Mary nodded. She didn't storm the stand. She didn't rush. She walked like a woman crossing thin glass. Slow, deliberate, dangerous with every step. But this time she wasn't afraid of breaking it. She was ready to shatter it. Taking the oath, she fiddled with the microphone, eyes fixed dead ahead. Not on Kody, not on the wives, not even on Nora. For once, Mary was facing herself. I was Kody's first wife, she began, her voice soft but heavy with ghosts. Legally, spiritually, publicly, but privately, I was the first to fade away. A hush fell over the court. Sometimes the worst wounds don't bleed, Mary whispered. They hide under your skin until one day you look down and realize you're gone. She swallowed hard. When Robin joined, I accepted her. I told myself it was God's will. Kody's will. But piece by piece, I disappeared. My time with him vanished. His words grew cold. I wasn't a wife anymore. I was furniture. Christine's eyes filled with tears. Janelle folded her arms, fury burning behind them. Robin sat motionless, face pale. Mary's voice wavered, but she pressed on. I found messages, texts. I thought maybe he was preparing for another courtship. That's what he told me. But no, he was already spiritually married to her, to Nora. And when I questioned it, do you know what he said? He told me I was paranoid. He told me I was bitter. He even sent me to counseling. A gasp rippled through the gallery. That counselor? He wasn't licensed. He wasn't trained. He was a friend. And he told me God wanted me quiet. Mary's tears fell silently. When gaslighting is wrapped in religion, it doesn't just hurt. It feels like failing God. She looked at Nora, then back at the judge. Abusers don't always leave bruises. Sometimes silence is the scar. And I carried that scar for decades. The courtroom was frozen. Mary's voice cracked but carried truth like fire. He used me. Like he used her. Like he used us all. The judge leaned forward. Do you believe Miss Blake was a victim? Mary didn't hesitate. I don't believe, I know. Because I was first. The room went still. Kody, red and sweating, finally broke, his body trembling. Tomorrow he would take the stand. And the world would watch the last mask fall. And the world would watch the last mask fall. The courtroom was supposed to be winding down. Kody rose from his chair, shaken but not broken. His lawyers flanked him, whispering. The judge was ready to clear the bench. And then Nora stood. Her voice didn't shout, it didn't tremble, it simply cut. Then why? She asked, steady and devastating. Did you say I was here forever if you were going to bury me? If you were going to use me until I was unrecognizable, then discard me like dust? Every eye followed her as she walked back to the stand. Not stumbling, not fragile, but lighter, as though for the first time she had decided the weight was no longer hers to carry. She sat, folder in hand. Heavier this time. Worn. Thicker. Inside it weren't just papers. They were pieces of her. Shards Kody had tried to scatter like ashes. Tonight, she was gathering them back. The judge leaned forward. You may continue, Ms. Blake. Nora inhaled, then exhaled. I didn't come here to be famous. I didn't come here to be forgiven. I came here to exist. The courtroom froze. She pulled out an old phone. Cracked screen, duct tape on the edges. 211 voice memos, she said. Every single one left by him. The prosecutor nodded. Authenticated. The judge gave the order. Play the first. Kody's voice spilled into the chamber, distorted but unmistakable. Don't come upstairs today. Robin's home early. Keep the curtains shut. If you hear the kids, stay silent. Gasps. Christine's hand flew to her chest. Robin turned pale. Another. I left your dinner in the garage fridge. Don't use the microwave. Your soup smell still lingers. And another. You're not my secret. You're my peace. Don't confuse the two. Nora stopped the playback. There are dozens more. One where he promised to leave Robin. One where he called me wife number 5. The judge gestured. Continue. Nora's voice cracked. Not in weakness, but in release. For 7 years, I was a ghost with a heartbeat. I never met the children. Never saw a birthday cake. Holidays were leftovers on a patio. He said I was too precious to be displayed. That Christine hated competition. That Janelle would never accept me. That Mary would lose her mind. That Robin was too fragile. And did you believe him? The prosecutor asked. Yes. Because when you love a man who wraps control in scripture, you mistake captivity for care. She placed photo after photo on the desk. Kody on a porch reading from a journal. Kody asleep in her lap. Kody cradling a newborn that wasn't hers, while she was told to assist during training weekends. I loved him, she whispered. But maybe he only loved the way he looked in my eyes. Christine dabbed at her tears. Mary whispered, I'm sorry. Janelle, unshakable Janelle, spoke with a voice like a hammer. We failed her. The courtroom exploded. The judge's gavel hammered. Order returned, but the damage was irreversible. Then came the twist. A sealed motion, a witness withdrawal. Mrs. Robin Brown has retracted her testimony, the judge announced. Chaos. Christine shouting, she knew. She admitted it. The judge silenced her. Kody smiled, small, venomous. The smile of a man who thought he had won again. But in the shadows of the recess, Nora revealed one more card. He called her the night before court, she whispered. I have the voicemail. The courtroom trembled again. When they reconvened, the judge allowed the evidence. Voicemails July 2nd, July 4th, July 6th, July 10th. Each one escalating from faux concern to veiled threats to outright intimidation. And then July 12th. You broke the rules. You want to go public? Fine. But when it's your word against mine, remember, I have a TV show. You have a basement. The silence afterward felt biblical. The judge's verdict. These recordings are admissible as evidence of intimidation, coercion, and abuse. They will trigger federal review. For the first time, Kody's mask cracked. His silence wasn't control anymore. It was fear. And then another explosion. An unexpected motion. A name no one had heard in years. Cynthia Blake, Nora's estranged sister. She walked in like a storm. Denim-torn, eyes unbroken. She swore in, sat, and told the court what she saw. Her sister, emaciated outside a Walgreens. Repeating words like a machine, he's preparing me. Her sister walking into Kody's house, signing papers off a clipboard. Her sister gone for weeks at a time as though erased. And then the journal. Handwritten entries. A letter from Nora herself. I loved him. I believed him. And if no one believes me, then I will die with this lie. The courtroom fell into stone silence. But it wasn't over. Because Christine brought forward another artifact. A hidden journal from the Flagstaff house. Inside, rules, schedules, and a list. 6 names. 4 crossed out. Rachel, Sophie, Maria, Lay, Tess, Nora. A roster. Not just one wife. A system, a cycle. The judge's voice trembled for the first time. This is no longer a civil case. This is criminal. The FBI entered. Files, binders, a flash drive. One folder, Rachel 777. Her video diary played in court. Day after day of brainwashing, erasure, and despair. Until the final blow. Rachel herself, alive, found under another name. She entered the courtroom scarred but breathing. My name was Rachel. I signed a covenant. I never saw it again. I forgot my own name until Nora whispered it to me. And suddenly everyone understood. Nora was never alone. This wasn't love. This was a cycle. And tonight the cycle was breaking. This was a cycle. And tonight the cycle was breaking.